And there's something that I drive home on my show every single broadcast that I want to say in a standalone video so that I could drive it home even more clearly. Racism is a real thing in America. I've experienced it firsthand. There is no exaggeration to it. It is real. You know, racial profiling is real. It is a separate thing, a separate phenomenon that African Americans and people of color experience uniquely that white people do not experience in the manner in which we experience it. So it is a separate issue that must be addressed in specific terms that address it specifically, if I can be redundant. It's something separate that has to be handled separately. However, the root of racism and white supremacy in the United States of America has always been economic exploitation. Racism and white supremacy have been the most effective tools in the toolkit of the wealthiest among us to keep poor white people from ever aligning their interest with poor people of color, poor black people. That has always been the tool of choice, because so long as they can make, and so long as the richest among us can make poor white people angry at every poor black person, poor Hispanic person, then we'll never be able to join in solidarity to drive out the economic, the people who are exploiting us economically, period. And so it is the easiest tool. It is so easy because it has been baked in our system since the founding of our nation. White supremacy and racism has been embedded in our system from the very founding. Matter of fact, realize this. When they came to take Africans from Africa and bring them to America, it wasn't because they didn't like Africa and they wanted to punish Africa. It was because they wanted cheap and free labor, so that they can drive the economics of their cotton fields. That is why they did it. So you have to understand, it was always about money. And so even when slavery was over, Jim Crow was about suppressing, not only suppression, but extraction of wealth. Sharecropping was about the extraction of wealth, getting your entire life's labor and extracting wealth from it. So we can't divorce. I know we have to address race issues head on, because when I get pulled over later on today, when I go out, I have to address the reality that that person sees me first, possibly sees me first as a criminal just because of my skin color. That is a problem. That is a systemic problem. But that problem did not begin just because they don't like black people. That problem began because they had to dehumanize black people so that they can continue to treat black people, to keep them in slavery and treat them in the manner in which they treated us, so that no one would ever question the economics of slavery, so that no one would ever challenge slavery, so that no one would ever challenge the economic system that was dependent on slavery and Jim Crow and the sharecropping experience in America. That's what you have to understand. So if we never allow the conversation to move beyond pure racism, then we will always be chasing after the symptoms and never the true disease. The true disease in the United States of America is economic exploitation. And the way they maintained that economic exploitation was by fueling the flames of racial animus between poor white people who were angry, aggravated, pissed off about their life, looking at black people, wanting someone to blame, and so they blame black people. It's an easy 1-2 combination. That is how it's been done in the history of the United States of America. And so we cannot completely dismiss someone's economic analysis that addresses the true disease. We can't. We cannot dismiss it. This does not mean that Bernie Sanders or anyone else for that matter is free to discuss economics without discussing the racial disparity in the United States of America. It does not mean that. It's not an either or. It's a both and. So don't dismiss the economic conversation, because that is actually going to address the wizard behind the curtain of racism. That's it. That's it. But just think about that. They did not come and take our ancestors from Africa just to punish us. They took us from Africa so that they can have cheap labor, free labor, And that's the exact same paradigm that we have right now. That is the paradigm behind the prison industrial complex. They're not interested in putting us in prison simply because they don't like us. I mean, some police officers, they just don't like us. But the people behind those police officers, the people behind those biased statistics, the people behind the criminalization and the dehumanization of African Americans, they want prisons so that they can extract wealth from everyone else twofold. They get money from the government for every person that's in the beds in the prison cell, and they get labor, free labor, $5 a month, something ridiculous, from all of the prisoners. It has always been about money. So absolutely, yes, we must address racial profiling. We must address racial disparities, racial inequality. We must address the fundamental. We must address the manner in which our policing agencies police across the board, but the manner in which it disproportionately affects African Americans. All of those things must be addressed by every single candidate. But at the same time, we also must address the drivers behind it. I think for the most part, we are chasing after the henchmen, and we need to finally get it together and say, let's knock off the henchmen, but let's also go for the boss. Let's also go for the man behind the curtain who's pulling all the strings. And that is economic exploitation and the manner in which we play capitalism in the United States of America, without a shadow of a doubt. If we don't address that, we will always be chasing racism here, racism there, racism everywhere, because racism is the easiest tool in the toolbox to keep, to protect the wealthiest among us from the solidarity that would occur if poor white people realize their life is, with the exception of racism, their life is just as screwed up and jacked up by this American system as anyone else. The only thing they have going for them is that they have white privilege, and they don't have to endure the racism that is in the United States of America. Hey, thanks for watching this video, everyone. If you liked it, be sure to click the like button, subscribe, and make sure you share it with all of your friends. If you like what we're doing at The Benjamin Dixon Show and think more people should hear it, consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/TheBPD Show, and we'll see you next time.